Japan has the most brutal car inspection system on the planet. It is called the Kaizen. Every 2 years, every single vehicle in Japan must pass a 60-point inspection so rigorous, so expensive, that most Japanese drivers would rather sell their car than pay to fix it. We are talking $700 to $1,600 just for the inspection and fees, before a single repair is even made. And this is not some emissions sticker slapped on your windshield. Inspectors crawl under the car, test compression, measure exhaust gases down to parts per million, and check for oil leaks with a flashlight and a white glove. It is the reason Japanese used cars are considered the best maintained vehicles in the world. But here is what nobody in America talks about. The techniques Japanese mechanics use during Kaizen to diagnose a dying engine are visual indicators you can check in your own driveway in under 5 minutes. No scan tool, no mechanic, no $150 diagnostic fee. Your engine is screaming for help right now, and most drivers have no idea how to listen. Today I am going to walk you through 7 hidden engine death indicators that Japanese mechanics have relied on for decades. And if you see number 1, stop driving immediately. Number 7, the oil filler cap test. This is the first thing a Japanese mechanic checks before even starting a diagnostic. Pop the oil filler cap off your engine, flip it over, and look at the underside. What you want to see is a thin film of clean, amber-colored oil. That is a healthy engine. What you do not want to see is a milky, creamy, white substance that looks like mayonnaise. Mechanics literally call it mayonnaise because that is exactly what it looks like. A thick, white sludge caked onto the underside of the cap. That milky residue is engine oil mixing with water or coolant. If it is just a thin film, you might be okay. Short trips in cold weather can cause condensation inside the crankcase that never gets hot enough to burn off. But here is where it gets serious. Pull your oil dipstick out next. If the dipstick is also milky, if the oil in your crankcase looks like a chocolate milkshake instead of clean amber oil, your head gasket is blown. Coolant is leaking into your oil passages and contaminating your entire lubrication system. A blown head gasket means your engine is no longer sealing properly. The cylinders cannot hold compression. Coolant is going where it should not, and every mile you drive is grinding metal on metal because that contaminated oil cannot lubricate anything. You are looking at $1,800 to $3,500 for the head gasket alone. Ignore it long enough, and you will need a full engine replacement. In Japan, that car would fail. Shaken instantly and probably end up at auction the next day. Number 6, the exhaust color test. Japanese mechanics do not just listen to an engine. They watch the tailpipe like a doctor reads a chart. A healthy engine at normal operating temperature should produce virtually invisible exhaust. You may see a faint wisp on a cold morning from condensation, but it disappears within a minute or 2. If your exhaust is blowing persistent, thick, white smoke after the engine is fully warmed up, that means coolant is burning inside the combustion chamber. It is the same culprit as milky oil, namely a blown head gasket, a cracked cylinder head, or in the worst case, a cracked engine block. You might also notice a sweet smell coming from the tailpipe. That is ethylene glycol, the primary ingredient in most engine coolants. Sweet exhaust and white smoke mean an engine is losing coolant internally. Blue or gray smoke is a completely different nightmare. Blue smoke means the engine is burning oil. Oil is leaking past worn piston rings or deteriorated valve stem seals into the combustion chamber where it has absolutely no business being. Eventually, you will be looking at an engine rebuild. If the smoke is thick and black, the engine is running too rich, dumping more fuel than it can burn. That is typically a clogged air filter, a faulty mass airflow sensor, or malfunctioning fuel injectors. Less catastrophic than blue smoke, but left unchecked, it will destroy your catalytic converter, which can be a repair costing $1,000 to $2,500. Number 5. The spark plug reading. This is the one that separates amateur mechanics from professionals. Japanese spark plug manufacturers like NGK and Denso, the two largest in the world, have published spark plug diagnostic charts for decades. When you pull a spark plug, the color and condition of the tip tells you exactly what's happening inside that cylinder. A healthy spark plug has a light tan or grayish-brown deposit on the electrode and insulator tip. That means correct air-fuel mixture, proper combustion temperatures, and an engine running within spec. If the tip is covered in dry black soot, your engine is running rich. Too much fuel, not enough air. Common causes are a clogged air filter, a stuck fuel injector, or a faulty oxygen sensor feeding bad data to the engine computer. The plug is being carbon fouled, which means it can't spark properly, which causes misfires, rough idling, and terrible fuel economy. Now here's the one that should terrify you. If the electrode is coated in a wet, oily black residue, that's oil fouling. Engine oil is leaking into the combustion chamber. Worn piston rings, damaged valve stem seals, or a failing PCV valve are the usual suspects. This is the beginning of the end for your engine's internal sealing. And if you're seeing it on multiple cylinders, an engine rebuild is on the horizon. And white or blistered deposits with melted electrodes. That means the plug has been running dangerously hot. The engine is overheating internally, the air-fuel mixture is too lean, or the ignition timing is off. Continued driving under these conditions can burn valves, score cylinder walls, or melt pistons entirely. That's complete destruction. Hey, before we get to the next 4 indicators, if you're learning something new today, smash that like button. It seriously helps the channel. Number 4, the compression test. This is the gold standard of engine health diagnostics, and it is a mandatory part of the Shaken process in Japan. A compression tester costs about $30 to $50 online, and it screws right into the spark plug hole. You crank the engine a few times and read the gauge. Each cylinder in your engine should produce roughly the same compression, typically between 125 and 180 psi, depending on the vehicle. If one cylinder is reading significantly lower than the others, for example 90 psi, when the rest are at 150 psi, that cylinder has a sealing problem. It could be worn piston rings, a burned exhaust valve, or a blown head gasket in that specific cylinder. Here is the real danger. If compression drops below 100 psi in any cylinder, that engine is on borrowed time. Low compression means incomplete combustion, which means unburned fuel washing past the rings into the oil, diluting it, and accelerating wear on every bearing and journal inside the engine. It is a death spiral. If all cylinders are uniformly low, high mileage has taken its toll. The rings are worn across the board, and you are approaching the point where an engine overhaul or replacement is the only real fix. In the Shaken system, low compression combined with high exhaust emissions is an automatic fail. The car gets flagged, and the owner must decide, rebuild the engine or scrap the vehicle. Number 3, the coolant reservoir inspection. Japanese mechanics obsess over coolant condition, and for good reason. Pop the cap on your coolant overflow reservoir when the engine is cold. The coolant should be a clean, bright color, typically green, orange, or pink depending on the type. If it looks rusty, brown, or muddy, you have corrosion eating away at gaskets, water pump seals, and the radiator core from the inside out. But here is the real Japanese mechanic trick. Look for bubbles. Start the engine with the radiator cap off and watch the coolant surface. Small, persistent bubbles rising through the coolant after the engine reaches operating temperature are a sign of combustion gases leaking into the cooling system through a breached head gasket. These are not air bubbles from a recent coolant flush. These are continuous tiny bubbles that smell like exhaust. Professional shops use a chemical block test with a blue fluid that turns yellow in the presence of combustion gases to confirm this. But visually watching for those bubbles is the quick field test that Shaken mechanics have used for years. If the coolant is also pressurizing excessively, causing hoses to swell and feel rock hard, that is even more confirmation. you are potentially one highway drive away from an overheating event that warps the cylinder head and turns a $2,000 repair into a $6,000 one. Number 2. The engine sound test. Japanese mechanics use a technique that many Western drivers almost never think about. They listen to the engine with a mechanic's stethoscope, a long metal rod, or a dedicated automotive listening tool placed against different parts of the engine block. You can do a basic version at home with a long screwdriver. Place the metal tip against the engine component and press your ear to the handle. The screwdriver transmits vibrations directly to your ear. A healthy engine at idle should have a consistent, smooth hum. What you are listening for are abnormal sounds. A rhythmic ticking from the top of the engine, near the valve cover, often indicates worn hydraulic lifters or excessive valve lash. It is not immediately catastrophic, but it is a sign of wear that will get worse. A deeper knocking sound from the lower half of the engine is far more serious. That is usually a worn connecting rod bearing. The bearing has developed too much clearance, and the connecting rod is slapping against the crankshaft journal on each rotation. This is your engine telling you it is about to seize. Rod knock gets progressively louder under load, and if the bearing spins, the rod can punch a hole through the engine block. Game over. A metallic slapping noise from the front of the engine could be a stretched timing chain. On interference engines, which are the majority of modern cars, including most Toyotas, Hondas, and Nissans, a stretched timing chain that jumps a tooth can cause the pistons to collide with the valves. That causes thousands of dollars of damage in a fraction of a second. Japanese Shaken inspectors flag any abnormal engine noise as a potential fail point, because what starts as a minor tick today can become a catastrophic failure tomorrow. Number 1. The oil condition and consumption test. This is the ultimate indicator that Japanese mechanics swear by, and it is the one that most American drivers completely ignore. Pull your dipstick and look at the oil. Fresh oil is amber and translucent. As it ages, it darkens. That is normal. But if the oil on your dipstick is jet black and gritty, if it feels abrasive between your fingers, that oil has been cooking inside your engine way too long. The detergents and additives have broken down, and you are running on liquid sandpaper. Now, here is where the Japanese standard really separates itself. Track your oil level between changes. Check it once a week. Mark the level on the dipstick with a tiny scratch, or note it in your phone. A healthy engine should consume virtually zero oil between changes, maybe a quarter quart over 5,000 miles at most. If your engine is consuming a quart every 1,000 miles or less, something is seriously wrong. Piston rings are worn, valve seals are shot, or there is an internal leak that is allowing oil to either burn in the cylinders or escape externally. Some manufacturers will actually tell you that consuming a quart every 1,000 miles is within normal range. That is absurd. Japanese engineers would never accept that. In the Shaken system, excessive oil consumption leads to failed emissions tests because the burning oil fouls the catalytic converter and spikes hydrocarbon readings. The car does not pass. Period. Here is the bottom line. Your engine gives you warnings long before it dies. Japanese mechanics have known this for decades. The Shaken system forces them to catch these problems early, which is why a 15-year-old Japanese import with 60,000 miles on it often runs better than a 5-year-old American car with 100,000 miles. The Milky oil cap, exhaust smoke, spark plug color, compression numbers, coolant condition, abnormal sounds, and oil consumption are the 7 indicators your engine uses to tell you it is dying. Most drivers do not check a single one until the check engine light comes on, and by then the damage is already done. Check them today. It could save you thousands, or your entire engine. That is all for today. If this video helped you, hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss our next breakdown. drop a comment and tell me, when was the last time you actually checked any of these indicators on your car? Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.